Welcome back to the series where I break down each team's schedule. I give you my thoughts on their 2023 season. We just started the NFC East with the Philadelphia Eagles. My last video, please go check it out if you have not. Now we are on to the America's team, Dallas Cowboys. Definitely the most polarizing team in the NFL. Year in, year out. If you watch Undisputed, you definitely hear a lot from Skip Bayless every single week when it's football season. I have the Cowboys struggling this year. They certainly will have a winning record, but I don't think they're going to replicate what they did last year in terms of success-wise. I'll get into that as we get into each week. So starting off with Week 1 at Giants, Sunday Night Football, it looks like. I do have the Cowboys stealing this one at New York. For me, my biggest concern with the Giants is just Daniel Jones. I'm not a huge Daniel Jones fan. I will give him credit, even though his stats, when you look at them, are pretty mediocre from last year. He's certainly stepped up and really cut down the turnover problems he had in his career before Dable. But Dable has been known for that. A perfect example. Look at Josh Allen. He really helped cut down on those turnovers. Did he still have problems with interceptions and fumbles at times? Absolutely, but he severely cut it down. And Daniel Jones really did that in his first year with Dable, leading him to the playoffs and getting him upset one against the Minnesota Vikings. But for this one, I do have the Cowboys coming out full force, firing all cylinders early on in the season, and they'll take down the New York Giants in this one. So next we have the debut for Aaron Rodgers as a Jet versus the Cowboys at least. This is going to be a close game. This is definitely going to be a very challenging game for the Dallas Cowboys. You can arguably say early on a statement game because of just the amount of pressure that people are putting on the New York Jets this year. Go check out my video for the New York Jets for the 2023 season. They're definitely going to be up there in the AFC, no doubt. The AFC stacked. Most of the top teams are, you can arguably say, Super Bowl caliber at times. So this is going to be a very early challenge or statement game early on in Week 2. I do have the Cowboys winning against the Jets. I presume to believe that the Jets will probably be favorites in this game against the Dallas Cowboys. So an upset win against Aaron Rodgers. And you already know, after Week 2, sweeping the Jets, beating both New York teams, the Giants and especially the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, you're going to hear a lot of talk about, man, this Dallas Cowboys team is different. They're different from previous years. They might have a chance to go all the way, because especially of a weak conference. We move to Week 3. This should be a pretty easy one for them. I don't have high hopes for Arizona Cardinals. I do believe this will be Kyler Murray's final year in Arizona. I think the team is going to get sick and tired of, first, I think more importantly, or 1A and 1B, but first off, the injuries, just not being healthy towards the end of the season. And if he is still playing, just at the same quarterback he is when he starts in the first half of the year. And also, you could say more importantly, at least, just the attitude, his personality concerns. You look at the contract that they put in, where stipulation where they had to make him study for a certain amount of hours per week. They ultimately took that out of the contract, but you can't take back what you put in the contract. We all know what was put on there originally. We know the problems with Kyler Murray, and especially with the new head coach that has no ties to Kyler Murray whatsoever. And that's not his quarterback. That was Cliff Kingsbury's quarterback. I could certainly see Arizona maybe taking a step back this year, potentially being a top pick in 2024's draft, and maybe contention with the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. So I think this should be an easy one for the Cowboys. The defense should handle the Cardinals pretty well. We still don't know also with DeAndre Hopkins if he's gonna be with the team at this point. At least for right now, looking on paper, I'm gonna have to just assume, at least for now, that he is on the team. Regardless, I think it should be a pretty easy one. Defense is definitely not one of the best in the NFL. You could argue one of the worst, no doubt, outside of Buda Baker. Not too much threat on that side of the ball, so it should be pretty easy for the Cowboys to score points on that one. So for the first 3 weeks, 3-0. That's where I said you're going to start hearing overreactions, talks of Super Bowl caliber. They could go all the way. This is different than previous years. This is where you start to see some cracks in this season. Next, we have the San Francisco 49ers, Week 5. I had the 49ers win this one. There's a far superior team. I know they've given the Cowboys trouble the previous last 2 playoff runs in the wild card in 2021 and in the divisional round last year. I don't see this changing. I'm sorry. The 49ers are too dominant. I believe the 49ers and the Eagles are going to be the top 2 teams in the NFC fighting for the Super Bowl appearance for the NFC, and probably most likely be a rematch of the NFC Championship game between those two. I'm sorry, I just don't. I trust Kyle Shanahan more over Mike McCarthy. Offense, I like the pieces they have more. Regardless, at the quarterback position, we're not sure if it's going to be Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy. We don't know the status with his elbow injury. Or guys, I much rather take the San Francisco defense and the creativity on the offensive side of the ball, regardless who's playing quarterback. Next, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. I do have the Cowboys winning this one. Last time they faced each other, it was a pretty close game, and I think ultimately, if I'm not mistaken, the Cowboys were able to win that one. I still view it as the same way. I think it's gonna be the same type of game they did last time they played each other. I have kind of concerns with the Chargers' offensive line. I think it's definitely Micah Parsons can take full advantage of that. Cornerbacks as well. We don't know at this point how healthy the wide receivers are going to be, even though they just got Quentin Johnson in the first round. You still have concerns with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. More so Allen with no doubt his age and his injury history, as well as Mike Williams still relatively, I want to say relatively young, but much, a few years younger than Keenan Allen, but also has the injury concerns as well. So it's not a good makeup for the Chargers wide receiver wise. Also, we don't know the full status of Austin Eckler. I assume he's going to play the season out. I'm not going to. There could be a possibility he might sit out. I'm not going to rule that out, but just looking on paper as of right now, I assume he'll be playing for the 2023 season. Regardless of all that, I do believe the Cowboys are capable of beating the Chargers. I'm not a big fan of Stanley. At times, pretty bad at decision making, especially on his 4th down. So I think they could really cost the Chargers a game right here. So week 7, they have an early bye, and you look at it, 4-2, pretty good. By the first 6 games, no doubt it's the only 2 losses between New England and San Francisco. You could argue with me that, hey, Cowboys can't beat the Patriots. Though I'll probably just say, in my opinion, the reason why I picked the Patriots over the Cowboys is more so just Belichick and the defense, especially with the Patriots when I predicted them starting 0-3. I think this is definitely a game where Belichick really puts his foot down and really changes the dynamics of this team and gets them back on track. So, best case scenario, I see 5-1. But for this one, 4-2, pretty good. But it's where it kind of starting to slowly trend into worse and worse. After the bye week, we have the LA Rams. The Rams, I do believe, will be better than they were last year, just riddled with injuries and trying to figure out, if you want to say Super Bowl hangover, even though they did win. I think they'll be much better than they were last year, but still, especially on the defensive side of the ball, with getting rid of Floyd, Ramsey, and along with a few other players on the team, Allen Robinson on the offense, they're definitely going to take a step back. I mean, no doubt they still have one of the best defensive players in the NFL with Aaron Donald, but it's not the same as the Super Bowl defense. They have Von Miller, Ramsey, Floyd. The list goes on and on. The Cowboys can take full advantage of the defense that lacks elite talent outside of Aaron Donald, and teams have shown that. Where if you neutralize them, if you double team them, it makes it a lot easier to try and neutralize them and handle them and deal with of course, the other lack of talent outside on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, I do expect Matthew Stafford to bounce back this year. Of course, once again, I just said the team was riddled with injuries, and he was one of them. We also kind of worry about getting up there in age. I think he'll be 38 years old some point in the season, or maybe before the season. I'm not sure when his birthday is, but you still want to question the age, no doubt. Not every quarterback is going to be a Tom Brady, a Aaron Rodgers that can play late into their 30s, early 40s, and still have great success. Not saying it's impossible, but it's definitely a factor you want to worry about a little bit. Offensive line, still a little bit worried about that side of the ball too. Once again, I think Micah Parsons and that defensive line can really take full advantage of this situation. More so the defense, outside of Aaron Donald, lacking elite defense like I did a couple years ago. I think they could take full advantage in this one and win. Next, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. I do have an upset in this one. I have the Cowboys winning this. I'm going to kind of view this similar as last year, though I'm not going to say it's 100% last year when both times they faced each other, one of the starting quarterbacks was out. Of course, the first meeting, Dak Prescott was out, Cooper Rush was playing, and then late in the season, I believe it was week 17, Hurts was out with a shoulder injury, Gardner Minshew was playing. I do expect both these quarterbacks to face each other both times this season. This one being at Philadelphia. Once again, I think this is another game where the Cowboys could steal this. I think the reason why, and it's going back to the Jets quickly, why I think they have the capability, is just because they're unpredictable at times. I think the last few seasons, in years past, they really at times have been unpredictable. A lot of at times for the wrong reasons, at times for the right reasons, where they can get hot and get cold really fast. This is definitely a game where I think they can steal a game. Division rivals, it happens. Same thing as when I said for the Patriots. I have the Patriots doing horrible this year, but I kept saying every single video, they have the capability of stealing a game, no doubt, and they most probably will. I view this the same way as the Dallas Cowboys, where they can steal a game from the Eagles. So next we go back to the Giants. Can the Giants get a revenge from Week 1? This is at Jerry World. I do believe the Giants will win this one and basically even the series this year 1-1, or splitting the series. I should say. I think Brian Daboll will really learn from his mistakes Week 1, and of course having a ton of games under his belt into the second season. I think he probably would make a ton of adjustments to deal with Micah Parsons, Lawrence, Diggs, so forth, Stephon Gilmore, and definitely make Daniel Jones comfortable in that spot. And no doubt the defense too. I think at times last year really showed that they could step up and give quarterbacks trouble. No doubt Dak Prescott is the big worry this year because of just the injury prone he is at times, especially in the late half of the season, where I believe it was the last 7 games where he had at least an interception. Wild card game, I don't want to give him too much credit because we knew Tampa were frauds to begin with, so they took care of business. That's what they were expected to. If you want to look at for a real playoff caliber game, look at the division round for the 49ers, and you can see that Prescott really struggled in that one. Next, we have the Carolina Panthers. I do have an upset in this one. I have the Panthers winning this. I'm very high on the rookie quarterbacks this year, especially for Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. I think they're going to shock a lot of people, and no doubt they both have capability. I want to say for Stroud at least because the AFC is too stacked. But Bryce Young, I believe, the Panthers could be a sneaky team to make the playoffs just because of the simple fact that the NFC is lacking of elite talent and tough teams in that side of the ball. And especially look at the division for the Falcons. We're not sure about Desmond Ridder, even though they have great talent there. Buccaneers, who are probably going to be the first overall pick in this year's draft, or this upcoming year's draft in 2024. The only thing it's going to be a battle between is probably them and the Saints. And at times I question the Saints more so with the head coach and at times with Derek Carr. So no doubt Bryce Young has the capability of potentially leading this team to a playoff in his rookie year. I love the talent that he has around them as well. It sucks that they lost DJ Moore in the process of getting Bryce Young, but no doubt this is a team I think that could shock some teams throughout the season and get some upsets. And no doubt I do have the Carolina Panthers beating the Cowboys. And also, I look at the defense last year. They really stepped up late in the season, even though record-wise they were horrible. They were still in contention with the playoff in the division at least, and they really stepped up in the second half of the year. I think they pick up where they left off late last season, and they continue throughout the whole year. And this is definitely a team that they can catch Cowboys off guard. So next we get to the Washington Commanders. The first time they're meeting the Commanders in the 2023 season. I do have the Cowboys winning this one. Big factor being just Sam Howell. I just don't know what he's going to be like this year. As the 2022 class has shown, and rookie quarterbacks taken late in the draft have shown. Another one, perfect example, is Davis Mills. But sticking with the 2022 draft class, it hasn't been that spectacular outside of Kenny Pickett, who I do believe will have a great year this year. Outside of Pickett, it's not looking too good. We're not Malik Willis. Looks like it's pretty much done with him. Well, certainly done with Will Levis being drafted there. Matt Corral, unfortunately, he wasn't given the opportunity because of just unfortunate injury. He's done with Bryce Young being there. Ridder is getting his opportunity as well. Same thing with Sam Howell. We'll see how he does with the Falcons. He has a ton of pressure on him as well because he has a little room for error, along with probably even less of error or more of it, has more leeway, I should say, than Sam Howell. I think there's no question Ron Rivera will give Sam Howell a few games to see how he does, but I think it'd be on a very short leash, especially this could potentially be his final year there, and it could cost him his job if they play bad. Now, I know they signed Jacoby Brissett, and there's a possibility that Brissett might be playing, and if he is, I'll give the Commanders a slightly better percent chance to win this one, but regardless, I do believe this is a team that the Cowboys can take care of. Once again, throwing out the Patriots, example out there. Are the Commanders capable of winning a game against the Cowboys or anyone in the division? Absolutely. They showed that last year with stunning the Philadelphia Eagles, winning or basically ruining their winning streak at 11. It was only Jalen Hurts' only loss as a starter in the regular season. So no doubt, they definitely have the capability just because of being divisional rivals, but the Cowboys should take full advantage of just an inexperienced quarterback, if it is Sam Howell, and win this one. This is where the season starts to really take a turn for the Cowboys. As I said, they're very unpredictable, sometimes for the right reasons, this one for the wrong reasons now. Seattle, I do have them losing to the Seahawks. Offensively, I think they're just way too stacked. I love that they have a really underrated trio. DK Metcalf, I love, a big body receiver, very fast. Tyler Lockett, once again, fast wide receiver. Great at, certainly not knocking on wood, is amazing with not having injury concerns. Definitely, I think at times an underrated wide receiver, no doubt. And more importantly, the shock in the draft this year with Jackson Smith and Jigba falling to the Seahawks at 20, being the third option at slot receiver. No doubt that is a pretty lethal trio. It has a capability of being that. But the bigger factor is just Geno Smith. He got his contract. He got his money. If he can play like he did last year, no doubt this is going to be a very challenging team. If he kind of reverts back to him being a one-hit wonder, one-year wonder, and reverts back to the Geno Smith that we knew before, certainly they have the capability of beating the Seahawks pretty easily. But if we're assuming that he'll pick up where he left off last year, along with the wide receivers, along with a better offensive line, along with Kenneth Walker and the running back they took in the second round to pair him up with. And on top of all that, the defense, they just added Witherspoon in the first round, along with Woolen, a couple other pieces, Jamal Adams, and so forth. This is definitely a sleeper team. I think it's a team, if they can hit their stride, get everything right during the season, especially late into the season. This is a team that could probably can make a potential deep playoff run. It could be definitely a dark horse in the NFC to make the Super Bowl. I know it's probably crazy to say, but I'd like the makeup of this team, but it all falls on Geno Smith. But with all that being said, I do have the Cowboys losing to Seahawks just because, once again, the wide receivers, I think they just have a better trio, much better trio than the Cowboys. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, it's pretty lackluster. Next, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. Can the Eagles get a revenge from Week 9, losing to them? Now they're at Jerry World. Can they steal a game at Dallas? Yes, they will. For the Eagles, I'm very high on them this year. I have very little losses for them in the 2023 season, and no doubt, to me, the first matchup in Week 9 is a fluke, and they will really get their act together in this one and take full advantage of this, especially when we're getting late in the season and trying to compete with the number 1 seed in the NFC, trying to get the bye week like they did last year. And this is where I think the Cowboys are going to start to falter a little bit, as shown starting off with Seattle. I just question for Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy, and the offensive line. I'm not a big fan of that 3 defense. I have no issue with that. I have no worry of them falling off with Quinn as their defensive coordinator. I think they'll be just fine. My bigger concern is just the offensive line. I think the Eagles will take full advantage of the offensive line that they didn't really address in this offseason and lost a few players on that line, especially with that stacked defensive line they have at least for one more year. They'll take full advantage of this one and really disrupt Tony Pollard and make it tough for Dak Prescott and potentially make him back into what he was in the second half of last year, being very turnover prone. And it's certainly a possibility. So next, we have the Buffalo Bills. Last time they faced each other was, if I have this right, 2019. This was Thanksgiving, where they won there and they won by double-digit points. Do I have the Cowboys winning the Bills? I'm not going to say it's not a guarantee, But I do have the Bill. I mean, for the Bills, I do have the Bills winning this one. It's not a guarantee. It's an easy one for the Bills. Certainly, the Cowboys do have the capability of going to Buffalo and upsetting them, similar like I have with the Jets in Week 2, the Eagles in Week 9, and then for the Bills in Week 15, they definitely have the makeup for that because again, they go really hot and cold very quickly. But for this one, especially for the Bills, like I said in my first ever video for the series, it's these last few games it's a tight race throughout the whole year for the AFC East. Every win matters, especially when we get late into the season. And the Bills, I think, are going to take full advantage of this one and make sure they solidify and guarantee their spot in the division and win it. And I think they'll take care of business against Dallas, who at this point is definitely stumbling at this point. You know, with this Bills loss, a 3-game losing streak towards the end of the season, not too good. Next, we have another tough team, the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins. I believe this should be an easy one for the Dolphins. Too much elite talent on that side of the ball. For the Cowboys, outside, if you're talking elite talent, CeeDee Lamb, and you could maybe say the argument of Tony Pollard, depending on how he does this year. Definitely, no doubt, a home run hitter, very explosive for the Cowboys, as he's shown last year and years past. Now he has a full capability of really maxing out with no longer having Ezekiel Elliott stealing carries. But once again, outside of that, I'm not too a big fan of Dak Prescott. Not a huge fan of Tua either, but definitely Tua last year proven at times before the concussions that he could play amazing. The perfect example was Week 2 last year when he had over 500 yards and 6 touchdowns against the Baltimore Ravens when he made that big comeback. He has the capability, especially with the elite talent he has around him, with Tyreek Hill, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, Jalen Waddle, one of the best second wide receiver twos in the NFL, Chosen Anderson. Nothing too crazy, but has the speed, has the capability, so he can definitely thrive with Waddle and Hill being the top 1 and 2 wide receivers, along with not even getting to the running backs with Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr., the rookie running back they took in the 3rd round, Texas A&M. I apologize, I can't think of his name offhand. The big weakness where I think potentially they could take a full advantage of in this game is the offensive line. Once again, similar to what I just said for the Cowboys, I'm disappointed, looking as a fan at least, disappointed for the Dolphins that they didn't address that, especially with the big concern with Tua and his injuries. He almost retired this offseason because of that. He had multiple concussions. At most, we speculate 3. We know for at least for a guaranteed 2. But I would think you would invest a lot in this offseason to protect him and make sure he's your franchise guy. He does last. They did add a few pieces not too long ago, a couple other players. But once again, I think that's a weak link that that's the only chance that I think the Cowboys have in slowing down and stalling at times the Dolphins. Outside of that, I don't see that. Dolphins defense at times is very underrated. I think they're built as a team as a whole. They're built very similar to the Kansas City Chiefs. Defense does just enough. It's not pretty. It's not one of the top teams or top defenses in the NFL where they're only allowing 17 points a game. They'll probably allow a good amount of points, 20 plus points a game. But they'll get the job done. I think at times they'll get a stop or two, or potentially a turnover or two, and really let this elite offense take full advantage of this. And I think this is definitely a spot where Prescott could certainly have a costly interception or turnover at least in this one. And the Dolphins can take full advantage of this one, especially once again for the Bills. The Dolphins are neck and neck with everybody in that division, with the Bills and Jets fighting for the number 1 spot in the AFC East. They have to win. Every game matters, and for this one, just like what I said for the Bills the previous week, the Dolphins are going to take full advantage of this one. Next, we have the Detroit Lions, who once again could be a very dangerous team this year, with especially later this season where they really took off, especially the defensive side of the ball. Offense, I think, was top 5 in the NFL last year. Defense was what really held them back. But they added a few more pieces to this team in the offseason and on the draft. I do have the Cowboys winning this one. It's just gonna be a very close game, back and forth. But ultimately, I do have the Cowboys winning it out. Especially, I think for them, once again, just being very inconsistent on a 4-game losing streak. They can definitely they can definitely just flip a switch and take full advantage of being the Detroit Lions, who I do believe has a good chance at winning. Making the playoffs. I haven't checked their schedule out, so I don't want to guarantee you, they're a playoff team or not. but certainly will challenge for that. It'll definitely be a much better team this year as they were last year. Once again, this go either way. If you want to say, hey, Lions have the capability, Lions are going to win this one, I'm not going to fight you on it. But for this, I do have the Cowboys winning this. I think overall they just have, especially on the defense side of the ball, a much better defense as of right now as the Lions. And offensively, it goes back and forth, but I would give weapon-wise the edge to Detroit. But ultimately, once again, I think the Cowboys are going to win this one at home, wrapping up their the final home game of the year. Now, finish up the 2023 season, we have once again the Washington Commanders away. Similar to the last one in Week 12, they're going to win this one. Once again, they'll be the worst team in the division. Spoiler alert when I get to the Commanders. I'm sorry, it's just I don't have a lot of faith with the Commanders this year. They're what I said when we first talked about the first matchup in this year. They're going to be a contention potentially for a top pick in the draft. It's going to cost Ryan Rivera his job. Sam Howell, at the final game of the year, he could very well be long gone as a starter and could be Brissett for the rest of the way. Who knows? But still, I just don't like the makeup for this team on that quarterback position. Defense, they have a great defense. I love their offensive weapons they have surrounding the quarterbacks, but once again, the most important position is the biggest question mark. Could Brissett really shock people and really maybe push for a playoff spot potentially in the wild card? Maybe, but I'm not too high on that. I'm sorry. Looking at Rivera's record with the Commanders, you could put a lot of blame on that on former owner Dan Snyder, which you definitely have a lot of credibility with that. But regardless, I'm not too crazy on Rivera and the Washington Commanders this year, so I think they will sweep the Commanders this year and finish the 2023 season with a grand record of being 9-8. Once again, probably being a little too harsh on the Cowboys, but I just really question the offensive side of the ball. More importantly, just the offensive line and Dak Prescott. If Dak Prescott's going to continue where he left off late last year with turnover problems and kind of coming up short in big moments, this is definitely going to hinder the team. Offensive line, once again, with their aging stars, with Zach Martin and Tyron Smith, more so Tyron Smith with the injuries, but both regardless. I would think offensive line be a priority, especially when you go back to 2016 when he was a rookie, along with Zeke Elliott. They went as a rookie for both of them. They went 13-3 and were the number one team in the NFC. Why? Because they had a number one offensive line. Obviously, since then, it's been a long time since his rookie year, and it's really shown how drastically this offensive line has really changed. I know they drafted the offensive lineman last year in the first round, but I think they should have added more help on that side of the ball. They didn't, and I believe that can really show its ugly head at times this season and make Dak Prescott uncomfortable. And potentially this could be Tony Pollard's final year as a Cowboy. We don't know. I mean, we presume because of the franchise tag. I don't think Jerry Jones is going to make the same mistake he did with Ezekiel Elliott, though Tony Pollard isn't as broken, as banged up as Ezekiel Elliott was before he got his big contract extension because he had to split carries with him. He wasn't a bell cow. But with all that being said, again, my biggest concern, and also too with Mike McCarthy, I'm not a big fan of McCarthy whatsoever. If he didn't have Aaron Rodgers, he wouldn't have won a Super Bowl. I think people at times, overrate him. I'm sorry. I get it. He has done record-wise a good job with the Cowboys, but playoff-wise, success hasn't lived up to that. I'm sorry. And definitely at times his decision-making, his clock management, I'm not a big fan of him. And I think that those big three things, the only saving grace, once again, is the Dan Quinn defense. I don't think they're gonna miss their mark on this year like they have and certainly not in years past too. Quinn has done an amazing job with the Cowboys. The more so my biggest concern is definitely, if I really have to boil it down, it's just more so offensive line and quarterback. That's my biggest concern with the Cowboys. And definitely have a worse season this year as they did last year. And they're going to be very far from, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles, who, once again, go check out my video for my record-wise, but certainly not winning the NFC East with this record. But it's going to wrap it up here. Let me know your thoughts down below on my, I was breaking down the 2023 season, my prediction. Let me know my thoughts down below if you like it, if you think I was too harsh on it, if I was right, if I was wrong. Please write down below. My apologies. With that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.